you find someone, something that you're willing to suffer, to die for. I have a client recently. It's a famous surgeon. He's so miserable because this child is sick. He said, I'd rather die. I suffer for my son. Now my son suffer. I'm a surgeon. I'm a famous doctor. I can't do anything about it. So he feel guilty, feel ashamed. He just breaks down before me and cry and cry. That love, I say, no. Love is suffering. Now you suffer for your son. So we cannot get away from that. And then the last point is that the Bible says, if you want to be the first, you have to be the last. Okay? You want to be the first, you have to be the last. You're willing to be a servant. So all my life, I've been willing to serve, helping other people in obscurity. Fame may never come to me, I don't care. But my joy is to be able to help somebody. Greatness may come to you, you're willing to serve. The paradox, okay? Now, part two, there are all kinds of intervention strategy. Now, local therapy had only 3 main intervention strategies. Deep reflection means that if you are very bothered, are troubled, and try to switch to something more positive, something, get away from it, and do some, play piano, take a walk, whatever. Start over reflect, overthinking, just drop it and switch to something else, more positive. Paradoxical intention means that you're really scared of something, trying to imagine the worst case scenario until it's so ridiculous that it makes you laugh. When you start laughing at yourself, then you're not happy anymore. It's paradoxical, right? So basically, that you learn to laugh at your fear. Oh, you see a paper tiger. I'm not afraid of you. Come, give me your best shot. Come, shoot me, make my day. You laugh at the situation. The third way he used Socratic dialogue. Now, here is an important point, is that he believed that deep down, we all have a healthy core. We all have a soul. We all have the answer deep down. So the job of therapist is to engage the client into a number of why questions for them to think deeper until they find the answer. So this is logotherapy. So meaning therapy is a lot richer. We use that, but we have 10 intervention strategies. So I just quickly go through them. 3 mental disciplines. Dalai Lama said, in fact, all the Buddhist psychologists say that why you're miserable? Because your mind is not disciplined. You don't know how to focus. You don't know how to rest. You don't know how to think clearly. So mindful meditation is basically help people to focus on the present moment. Help people to think with clarity. There's so much voices, the mind is so much noises chattering inside them. Mindful meditation is to try to quiet down the voice while you pay attention to your breathing. When somebody observe your thoughts and emotion. So if you train your mind to observe, earlier we talked about the observing self. You developing the observing self. Whenever the situation, really detach yourself as an observer. Switch the role from being a victim to being an observer. That will reduce your suffering. You step that to observe your problem. So where they are, you observe your problem. And meaning mindset is simply says, what the meaning of this thing? What's the purpose? So UCLA, I did a famous study on spontaneous attribution process. When people in bad situation, automatically they ask, what caused it? What can I do about it? What's the purpose? No, little child say, why me? Start building us to seek for meaning. So you apply to the meaning mindset that in every situation, people say, there's a reason for everything. There's a purpose for everything. There's a cause for everything. If you start thinking about the meaning, the purpose, the cause, then you're engaging your forebrain. You're engaging your rational thinking. Okay. The dialectical thinking is also very powerful. That means whatever happened to you, whatever happened, don't be one-sided. Always think about the possible. The Chinese culture is very, very wise in dialectical thinking. Chinese say, 乐极生悲. We're too happy, you're going to crash. You'll be unhappy. So your success is, oh, well, I'm success. Maybe 后浪推前浪. Maybe somebody smarter than I will replace me. So you're able to think about when you're positive, you think about negative, then be humble. When negative in the next situation, think the other end, opposite end, the positive, the liberal spirit. I'm not hitting rock bottom. I can't go any lower, so I have to go up. So that's dialectical thinking. I can't get any lower, I have to go up. So basically, dialectical thinking help you to find a balanced way to look at things. Dialectical thinking is a help you to develop cognitive credibility. And so, it's very sad, okay? So many clients suffer because their thinking is so rich, they get stuck in one thing. They get stuck. They get stuck on one way of doing things, one way of thinking. They cannot just be flexible, think about different shades of gray, different way of doing things, different possibilities. Maybe your enemy has some truth to tell you. Maybe he's using an enemy, maybe he's your friend. When your friend can tell you the truth about you. We got so stuck about some concept of who we are, of what we're going to do, but so fixed, we're not able to let go of anything. Well, okay, you're going to do that, you always make yourself more miserable by being so rigid. When you open your mind to other possibilities, then, in Chinese statement say, one step backward, the sky open up. The sky open up, the ocean open up. Take one step back. You get so to close your problem and let it go. You get stuck. You'll be miserable. Now, another way is called the dual system, okay? This is very powerful. This is very powerful, okay? Let me explain to you. In biology, we know there are two major systems, avoidance and approach. This is very ancient. This is our natural tendency, okay? In animal, they say flight or fight. Flight or fight. So the only one way, you fight. But human being with a more better developed brain, our choice is not between flight or fight. But the best way is try to combine this approach and avoidance together. Let me see how. The good life is you make the approach, avoidance, and go together. Now here is a more detailed diagram. Something good happened to you, or your situation is good, then you pursue your purpose, approach, the outcome. But somewhere along the way, rejection happened. Boom. Get you there. Okay? There's something bad happening. Get you there. Then you don't switch to, you don't give an approach and start going for avoidance. Then your life is finished. Then no more success for you. All you spend in life is avoidance, avoid failure, avoid people, stay home and cry. You'll be stuck there. But when you combine the two, you see, when you combine the two, if you fail, then you engage in ABCD, I explained it on. That will help you to go back to the purpose and continue. So this one, avoidance actually, so the most successful therapy is to emphasize both. You only focus on some clinical therapy, some therapy only deal with symptoms. You're forever at the bottom. But therapy is more effective when you deal with symptoms, but at the same time, engage them to talk about their dream, talk about their ideal, talk about them what they really want in life. You get this line going, get the approach going, so that will give them, that will give strength. So this will give strength to their effort to get away their symptom, get away their addiction, get away their pain. So your effort to get away with pain become easier when you draw strength from your positive approach to life. Your positive approach to life goal has better chances of success if you're able to handle all the disruptions, all the failures with the avoidance, with the coping strategy that will then contribute to a positive outcome. See, both positive and negative events both can contribute to a positive outcome. So what I'm saying is that you want to have successful life, you want to help your clients to succeed, you have to try to make the best use of both approach and avoidance approaches. Now, here's another thing about resources. Remember earlier we talked about flexibility. Some people are one trick pony. I think this is one of the humanistic psychologists. I think Royal Mail. If you have a hammer, then you treat everything that need a hammer. One trick pony. Your CBT, you treat everything with CBT. Yeah. You have to be flexible, okay? In coping, this is called let me see. Okay, different up. So this is called resource congruence model of coping. Resource. Here, resource. So in order to cope with life, in order to live a better life, a more productive life, you need to do proactive coping. Means you cultivate your resources. Okay. Education, intellectual, emotional, spiritual, existential, faith, love, work, all inner resources. What meaning of life? Meaning of life is cultivate your resources. Oh, I'm too poor. Why was I employed? You know how I spend my day? I spend my half a day hunting my job, half a day enrich myself by studying. I don't care how old you are, how young you are. When other people spend time seeking enjoyment, watching TV or playing games, you spend time cultivate your inner resources. Guess who will be more successful? The one who have fun, seeking fun, or those guys who spend time cultivating their inner resources. Of course, people, so that's why when I go to university, I finished my 4 years honor in 2 years because when I'm employed or when I'm working on those jobs, I study everything. I study. So when you know resources, now when cope with life, use appropriate resource, appropriate strategy. Employ a congruent strategy, strategy that congruent with the situation. Now, if the problem requires money, you have money. The problem requires friend, you have friend. The problem requires prayer, you have cultivated relationship with God. You know, like many Buddhists, many Christians, they come to God when the problem. It's too late. You have no relationship. You cultivate relationship, cultivate your faith. You spend all your time cultivating. It's never wasted because when you're in trouble, boy, your bank is full. You have lost banks to draw from. You have your financial bank, emotional bank, spiritual bank, relational bank. You have all kind of bank account you can draw from. That help you to overcome. That will help you to succeed. Now here's a deep why hypothesis, which very few people pay attention. They all remember broaden and build hypothesis. But this one is just as powerful, especially for bad situations. Deep. When you suffer, it helps you to deepen your inner resources, deepen your faith, deepen your courage. Suffering helps to deepen everything, your root. Every suffering you experience deepen your root. Suffering also broaden your resources. Do you know why I am able to generate new ideas every day, every week? You know why? because I'm not successful. People reject me, right? Okay, you reject my way. I come up with a better way. So I keep on creating new ideas. That's why sometimes early success is not good for you. Early success, you start develop some idea that bring you fame and money. Oh, you say you got it. You no longer struggle. You no longer struggle to create new ideas. You can milk your old thing. But you will fail. You if your ideas are not accepted, they will force you to think about a better way to communicate your ideas or think about a better ideas. That's why I keep on creating new ideas because of suffering and failure. So in other words, by going deep and wide, eventually I produce more fruits. Sooner or later, I'll produce more fruit. Because my roots are deeper, my roots are wider. You got an idea now? So deep and wide, complement, broaden and build. Okay? We need both to live a happy life. Here back to Franco. Franco also had a way. He's very smart. See, Franco has simpler way, but much broader. Franco's way of dealing with suffering is through three pathways of meaning. The first one is that when you suffer, whatever, it doesn't matter what you do, whether you are a waiter, a truck driver, or a nurse, it doesn't matter what you do, you can create some value. Remember, the meaning means create value. The Buddha said something. Buddha said, whenever you do, you give yourself totally to the job. The Bible also says, whatever you do with your whole heart, your whole soul, as if unto God. So creative value means that no matter what you do, you use an opportunity to give some value to the world. So I have one waiter working at the Sui Chalet. He's a model waiter because he knows my name, he knows every customer name, he's concerned about your life, he provides best service. So here's a guy who brings his whole being, his creative self to the work. That's why I work with joy. And also a chambermaid and hotel. A chambermaid is a job, it's a dirty job. Oh, what is the job? But research showed that if chambermaid consider his job as make the place the second home for the customer and create a second home for the traveler. So she brings her love and creativity to do his best job. So still doing the same thing. But now he's doing his job with creativity, with meaning. So he gives something to the world. So he creative work. What makes work meaningful is not what you do, but what attitude you bring to your work. If when you're a surgeon or a nurse or a chambermaid or a cook or what, it doesn't matter. I've done all kinds of work. I've cleaned washroom for the gym. I've done all kinds of dirty jobs. But it's the attitude, it creates value. But when you're not able to work, when you're laid down in bed in hospital, you can't do anything, you have experiential value. That means what? You receive something from the world, whether nature or music or art. You receive something in the world with gratitude, with appreciation. That also make life meaningful, make life joyful.